Item 1, let's open the successor agency and the Housing Authority and the Finance Authority, Madam Clerk.
A quorum is present.
Move allow payment.
Okay, item 1, CH1 and H1.
Move allow payment. Second.
Madam Clerk.
Council and agency members, Dodson, Padilla,
Aye.
Morales,
Aye.
Franklin,
Aye.
Mayor Chairman Buds.
Aye.
Can we turn the mics up? We can hardly hear.
We'll do the best we can. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
The next scheduled matter is a public hearing to consider an appeal to the Planning Commission conditions of approval for special use permit number 1209 to allow the installation of a roof-mounted telecommunications facility at 10318 Prairie Avenue.
Has the notice of this hearing been given in a time, form, and manner as required by law, and do you have the affidavit on file?
Notice has been given and affidavit is on file.
Madam Clerk, have you received any communications?
No communications have been received.
Mr. City Manager, is there a staff report?
Yes, Ms. Linda Tatum, Acting Economic and Community Development Director, will give the staff report.
Welcome, Ms. Tatum.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me 1 second. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This public hearing is for the City Council to consider a request to amend a condition of approval for a project that was approved by the Planning Commission that was related to the installation and the design and screening of a wireless telecommunication facility, or one of those cellular antennas that is proposed at 10318 South Prairie Avenue. In November of 2014, the Planning Commission held a public hearing to consider the SUP application for this project that was filed by...
Mine's on.
Okay, could we pause for one moment, Ms. Tatum?
Oh, there it is. It's working.
Okay, we're back? Okay, Ms. Okay. We use your big boy. Go ahead, Ms. Tatum.
Okay. So in November of 2014, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this item that was filed by Albert Sandoval, representing Verizon Wireless, for installation of this antenna and the supporting equipment on the rooftop of an office building on the subject property. The Inglewood Municipal Code allows these antennas to be installed in certain zones in the city, subject to compliance with certain regulations for those antennas that are very specifically related to their size, their height, the location of the facility on their property, setbacks, and also regulations that require that these facilities be either camouflaged or screened from the public view so that they can minimize any visual impact of these facilities, at least to the greatest extent practical. After considering the staff report and the presentation, as well as the public testimony and comments from the applicant, the Planning Commission approved this specific plan, the SP 1209 for this property, which allowed the installation of the antenna subject to 14 conditions of approval. The applicant is now appealing the wording of condition number 4, which provides 3 alternate locations on the rooftop of the facility as it was approved by the Planning Commission. The plans that were presented for this project as reflected by staff, I will walk through those so you can get a feel for what the request is.
The current request, Ms. Tatum?
Yes. As you can see here on this aerial, here's the site. I'm just going to orient you briefly. Oh, the pointer just doesn't come through. So the yellow is the project site. It fronts on Prairie Avenue and 104th Street. It sits there on that southeast corner of the site. And that's the office building that sits on the property. Very generally, what you see at the top is the design. It's the existing building, and it's the design that Planning Commission approved. What you see in the middle of the picture there, my pointer doesn't come through, but that third floor at the rooftop in the middle of the site, that is a proposed addition to the property in which the antenna will be installed within that area. Now, what you see here on this photo is that there are a couple of different levels on this property. There is a first floor, a second floor, and if you can see on the approved design by the Planning Commission, What you see is a very modern architecture of this building. It has these 3 open archways, which are one of the very distinct features of the building, as well as the round turret there on the corner of Prairie and 104. But a very specific design of this are those open archways. What you see in the bottom design is the proposed design by the applicant, which would enclose one of those arches so it's no longer open to the sky. And it modifies the architecture of the building, and I'll explain to you why they are requesting that. The Planning Commission's approval allowed the installation of the antenna within the enclosed area, which is the new rooftop addition in the middle of the exhibit on the top. The equipment that supports the antenna, one of the options is to put that equipment in that room along with the antenna. A second choice allows them to put it on the rooftop on the second floor there in that open space area. And the third choice is to put it within one of the interior leasable spaces on the property. None of those choices were acceptable to the applicant. The applicant is requesting, and let me just briefly refer you back to the site design. You can't see it on here, but the rooftop is what you see on the right side of the screen with that 3-sided design in the middle there. That's the antenna itself. That's on that 3rd floor roof level that I showed you in the other design. The second choice is to put the equipment on the rooftop that you see shaded in the yellow area there behind you. Where you see that rooftop, where you see this equipment at the very front, I wish this worked, but it doesn't. At the very front, you can see the equipment. That's at the very front of the building, and it's clearly visible within the archway. So Planning Commission's second recommendation is for them to install that equipment at that same location within that yellow area, but near the back so that you couldn't see it from the street. That's the proposal. Or, again, the third choice was to put it inside one of the rooms, inside one of the leasable areas in the space. So those are the 3 choices. The applicant's choice is to locate it where it's shown here, which would make it visible from the street within that open archway. Their proposal, as I showed you in that earlier screen, was to now close in that arch so the arch would no longer be open and it wouldn't mimic the other open arches. And I'll go back just so it's clear. You can see on the bottom photograph how that arch to the left would be closed in. So it would affect the proposed design when they locate the equipment at the front, would affect the design of the building. So essentially, they have asked that that condition be modified to allow them to put the equipment near the front of the building and to screen in that 3rd arch on the building. The Planning Commission, in making their determination, conditioned the facility so that it will comply with the zoning regulations, and because they acknowledge that it does provide a needed service to the community by enhancing cell service in that area. But they wanted a design that would not affect the architectural style or integrity of the architectural design of the building, and also would not affect that open space area that's on the floor or on that rooftop area. Right now, the way the building was originally designed, that open space was designed for use by tenants of the building. But with the installation of the equipment in that area, it could no longer be used by the tenants of the building because the equipment would preclude it from being accessed and used in the way it was originally designed, as just a common area for the tenants who use the building. So as we understand it, the applicant can, as he's expressed to staff, he wants to pursue the option that is the least cost to him. And we understand from our building plan check engineer that any of those locations, the 3 that were recommended by Planning Commission, as well as the location that he's proposing or he's requesting, all of those would require some retrofitting and some structural engineering to accommodate the weight of the equipment. But that is the option that he is choosing or he would prefer, and that is his request of the City Council. So in conclusion, staff recommends that the City Council uphold the decision of the Planning Commission to not modify the conditions, but to leave them as they are based upon the fact that if they were to locate the equipment where they are requesting, it would affect the architectural, the design, and the aesthetics of the building itself. If the council decides in their deliberation that they are okay with the requested location and that they decide to approve the appeal request, staff asks that you make sufficient reasons for approving it and direct staff to come back to the next council meeting with a resolution that reflects the findings to support the decision to approve the design. That concludes staff's presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Would you like to have us?
Thank you, Mayor, members, city staff, and citizens. My name is Albert Sandoval. I'm the applicants, 10 Pasteur, Suite 100, Irvine, California, 92618. As was stated, we would like to hold on all the conditions. The one condition that is being appealed was for condition 4B, and that was based on the fact that the design was proposed by the city staff, but it was presented and created on the color elevation, as you notice here, with a representation that was based on detailed supporting structure, was not based on detailed supporting structure that we received of, and the and/or analysis or calculations provided. In addition, prior to and during the Planning Commission hearing, the applicants, our representative, conveyed to staff that the Commission that the supporting equipment location suggestion under Condition 4 would not be commercially feasible for both the applicants and the property ownership. The condition is is being appealed is based on our structural analysis, which is by a state licensed structural engineer. The review and analysis of the existing building structure. It's been determined that moving Verizon Wireless supporting equipment load eastward on the lower roof of the building is not structurally feasible, and that the area to lower on the roof has no bearing substructure for Verizon Wireless supporting equipment to be tied into structurally. Also have our engineering firm, Eric Volsang, here as well. You can attest to the documents that were provided in support of this. But you brought up one point where you mentioned that the rooftop was for tenants' space, and that's solely a walkway, and there are 2 archways there. And I brought some photos here, if you'd like to.
If you could give them to the clerk.
And the walkway, there are 2 parts of the 2 arches to each to the walkway there. We would Verizon Wireless proposes to enclose one, and that would be on the interior side of the walkway. Now, the tenants aren't allowed on the roof portion where the proposed equipment area is designed, where we initially applied for. The one enclosure would be painted to mimic the styling and the decor of the building, whether it be an abstract color as seen on the other portions of the building. But it was that area was never intended for any leisure walk or anything like that. It's solely roof.
Ms. Tatum, did you have any response or no?
Yes.
All right.
The rooftop area that he is referring to, I can,
Could we turn cell phones off? All right, go ahead.
yes, the rooftop area that he is referring to, based on my understanding, it was an area that was initially, when the plans were approved, it was identified as just an open space area, and it is accurately reflected here in the photograph that he presented. So I would just like to point that out. There is a walkway, but adjacent to the walkway is an open space area that could be used for a common area for the tenant spaces or for the tenant's use. But more importantly, I'd just like to respond to his comment about the structural reinforcement. Not only the city's plan check engineer, but another engineer that was present at the Planning Commission, they also stated that there is nothing that would preclude any part of that rooftop, either on the 2nd floor or the 3rd floor, from being engineered to accommodate the equipment. What he very specifically said was it is just a matter of cost, and we understand that it is in the applicant's interest to go with the lowest cost of those alternatives, and we respect their request and their desire to do so. The concern of the Planning Commission, though, was just that that proposal would have an impact on the architecture of the building, and there were other options that were available to them, all of which would require some cost.
Mayor, can we ask the applicant to provide copies for the public?
Oh, of these pictures?
Anything they're providing to the city council?
Do you have other copies?
Those are the ones that
Here,
I.
you can take mine and put them
Yeah,
out
you can
there.
take mine also. There you go. Yeah, you guys can just put them out on the table. it's fine.
The clerk will collect them. Don't worry about it. You don't have to do that, sir. Here's two more. All right. Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you. You can have a seat. Are there any persons present who wish to address the council on the matter?
Paul Anthony Viculums, with reference to Verizon representation. Again, you're looking at
I'm sorry, sir, did you say you were the owner of the building or the engineer?
With Viculums, associate with Albert Sandoval
Oh, okay.
and Verizon. In looking at the artist rendering there, the opening can be painted to give it the illusion of a aerial view. It does not need to be in the design that is present, as shown on the window in the display there. When we were at the hearing originally, we had discussed it in length with planning, and during the process, we were thinking that what they were voting for was the fact that they were going to allow this expanded version of level 3. Level 3 presently does not exist. We are going to need to create that. So when we make the assertion that it's not at a great expense to Verizon to provide this aesthetic design, it is. We're adding that additional level to the exterior. Our original rendering was extremely smaller and just small enough to occupy our antenna areas. The expanded version, along with the thought in conversation, was for a second level equipment area due to the weight and size and retrofit necessary, needing for structure to go from the third level all the way down to the ground and recreate foundations, footings, and other activities. We would not necessarily, we wouldn't need to go to that extent to develop the property. And I don't know, in looking at the building, if any of you own a building, to add a tenant to that property, which is going to add benefit to the community, is to go to that extent to add that tenant, to inconvenience additional tenants that are there, to redesign the footings and redesign a lot of other factors. So it's, although it may be economic in some certain extent, but feasibility and whether or not it's a good business choice to make that decision. And I think the benefits of having this facility there to the community outweigh some of the other economics to the aesthetics. And we are making the building aesthetically pleasing for the area and not altering its aesthetics. And that's it.
Okay, so,
Any questions?
so no, we'll ask later. We're going to let the public speak.
Okay.
But please stick around.
Yes.
All right. Are there any persons in the public that want to comment on that?
Hello, I'm Eric Fulsang. I'm the architect, and I'm from Newport Beach, California. The couple things I wanted to mention. The area that's shown as screened off, there's actually 2 walls in that corridor, makes an arcade. We're screening the back side of it away from the street. The arch is still open on the street side. So when you look up, you'll still see through the arch structure. Number 2, the structural reinforcements that are going to be required to place the equipment on the uppermost portion of the roof is extensive. And we sometimes kid when we're looking at buildings like this that we should just put a note on it that says tear down building, build stronger building to hold cell site. And we would have to strip this building to expose all the steel moment frames, remove the steel moment frames, and reinforce the footings, literally from below ground all the way up. When a project goes well over $1 million, it becomes an issue for Verizon to continue on with that project. So we're trying to put it down where it's still feasible. Otherwise, it's going to be beyond, I think, their ability to afford it. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Franklin.
Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing me. First of all, let me thank Mr. Sandoval for submitting these pictures, which gives me a better view from on top versus me going to the street. I'm surprised the landlord is not here to hear from his point of view as to this being a potential candidate or prospective tenant. First thing I need to raise to staff is identify the proposal of putting this equipment on the roof. Is it structurally sound to handle such weight?
At this time, we don't do any type of structural analysis. We essentially leave it to the applicant to make the proposal, and the Planning Commission makes a recommendation based upon all of the code compliance issues. If the Planning Commission, and in this case the City Council, approves the project, the next step would be for it to come into the plan check, the site plan review process, and then subsequently the building plan check. And at that time, they'd be required to provide the structural engineering packets that identify how the weight will be supported by the modifications to the building. So the building code would require it to be structurally sound.
Well, I heard Mr. Fulsight be an architect designer as to accommodating the aesthetic beauty and with minor modifications
Yes.
for the structure, the project itself, but not for the ability to handle the weight and what needed to be done. I heard the other gentleman speak that is an issue that needs to be weighed. The other thing also I heard from the presenters is that when they showed us the pictures, I noticed this walkway, or the breezeway we've called it, that there's a doorway toward the end of the building. Is that for emergency exit purposes, or what is outside that door?
We know that there is a door on either end to access that walkway, and it's up to the building owner in terms of how that space is used. It's not clear to us what the purpose of having that as a walkway, other than to get you from one side of the building all the way to the other. But what we understand is that they are completely separate tenant spaces on either end of the building.
But because it's a breezeway walkway, you call it a rooftop, but it's still a walkway to get from one point to that door, and I'm just, if that's emergency exit or what.
It's not my understanding that it was an emergency exit. I think we generally understood that it could be used for a smoking area, because to go outside to smoke, that's just one potential use of it. But on the plans, they didn't specifically identify it as an emergency exit, but we can certainly look into that.
Okay, then I want to weigh also under consideration of what the other, one of the gentlemen proposed, that the presentation that we see before us of the applicant proposed design, where we have this dark spot where the archway is, that really is not impeding the walkway, but it's on the roof part that would be closed, that would not necessarily be able to see it from the street, but they offered some kind of decorative, I'll call mural, to help give that illumination that is still a clear through passage. So they're only talking about the roof itself. And then I noticed by the pictures, there seems to be an air vent in the roof that may imply that it's either connected to the water heater or some other plumbing apparatus, and what impact that would have with this equipment that is now being proposed at the far end, which I've seen there as well. Has that been addressed?
Not specifically, because those are the kinds of structural details that are typically done either during the site plan review part of the process or in the building plan check. So when the Planning Commission reviews it, they're essentially viewing it to make sure that it meets all of the zoning code requirements for the aesthetics of it, and with the stipulation that it will be required to comply with both the building code and all of the site plan review conditions, which get into that level of detail.
And the municipal code clearly identifies that the item.
You passed time. You Want another minute?
Just 30 seconds.
All right.
And the Inglewood Municipal clearly defines that the equipment is not to be viewed from the street.
That is correct.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Morales?
Just briefly, I had a couple of questions. When the design of the applicant proposed design came up and the architect shared that the actual opening of the window was not actually blocked, but it was set back, covering the actual equipment, that you would still be able to see through the window. Is that because whatever is covering the equipment is actually set back from the opening?
Well, that is essentially the bone of contention. Their proposal is that if you put the equipment in that walkway and have that back screen, that you couldn't see it from the roof. But we, the staffs looking at that, felt that the height of the equipment, given the distance of that walkway, which is, and I'm guessing here it's approximately 4 to 6 feet,
Yeah.
that you could see the equipment.
Right, and I could see the pictures that were shown to us. And on the rendering, I just want to say that it actually looks like it's completely covered when it actually isn't. And I'll be deferring to the councilman from that district, but I have a couple of questions in regards to, I was wondering why the owner wasn't here. Is that building fully occupied?
We understand that it is not. There
Do
are
you-
several vacant
Right,
spaces in there.
and what I'm getting at is that in addition to everything else, and this is probably for another conversation, but we need to only give certain benefits to folks that occupy a large number of their building. Otherwise, we're motivating them to make money other ways other than to fill the capacity of their building. But that's definitely something we need to talk about at a later date. For now, I will say that I'll be deferring to the councilman from the district. So thank you very much.
Councilman Padilla?
Thank you, Mayor. One comment. Mr. Sandoval, you mentioned early on in your comments that the drawings that you initially received for this site were not the ones that you had.
That was provided here was developed by city staff.
Right, but you mentioned that the renderings and the photo and the stuff that you received to do this, the wireless stuff, was different than what you anticipated?
Well, when we submitted the land use application, it was with the proposed equipment area being up front with that, the front archway, the inner part of the archway covered. And it's the top one shows the 3 arches that were designed by planning as under the approved design. So we provided the lower elevation.
All right.
And planning developed the top
Okay,
elevation.
I just want to get clarification on that. All right, thank you.
Councilman Dodson, any questions?
Yeah, I just want to ask one thing. I see 2 different renderings. The one at the bottom, the actual design of the building is altered because the breezeway is closed off. Is that the way the new, that they do this?
Okay.
That's our understanding initially, but what I heard the applicant say earlier is that they would close it off, but it would be painted blue to look like the sky.
Ooh.
But I don't want to speak for them.
I don't know how that's possible, but I'm like Councilman Morales, I'll defer to the council of that district. My thing is that we should not interfere with the architectural design of the building. To me, it's not working. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Quick question. So the issue is how close to the street the equipment's going to be. Is that right?
That's correct. And if it's too close to the street as we
It's
perceive it,
it's
it'll
visible.
need to be screened.
It would need to. So the planning commission's condition would allow it to be where they choose it to be, but it'd have to be screened. Is that right?
Essentially, it allows it not where they want it to be. They want it to be in the breezeway. The planning commission's recommendation that it would be further back on the roof, on the back part of the roof, not where they're proposing.
Okay. Could the engineer come forward?
He's the architect.
Who is involved with the coverage map and the load-bearing capacity of the building? Who would I ask that question
The
to?
radio frequency engineer does the coverage map where
Right.
he looks at the need in the neighborhood. We did the structural analysis of the building and then looked at the existing structure and evaluated its capacity. It failed our structural analysis, so we determined that we'd have to do the upgrades.
Okay, and so you're saying if you move it further back, that it's more costly to do the structural upgrade?
No, what we did is we moved it off the taller portion of the building and to the lower roof. At that lower roof, we were able to reinforce, it still required reinforcement, but we were able to do it with less impact to the building. By just placing in a couple of columns at the lower levels, we were able to support the structure. Up above, the taller you get, it's like a bowling ball on a broomstick handle. It's a lot harder to hold it up in a lateral situation such as an earthquake. So we had to go in and strip all the walls down, expose all the steel frames, expose the plywood shear walls on the other walls, and reinforce them, rebuild them all the way down to the footings, and increase the size of the footings themselves.
Okay, where you have it now, how much was it costing Verizon, you said?
Yes.
How much was it costing?
I don't have a cost estimate. We haven't gotten to a stage where it's been bid by a contractor, but the difference is probably maybe a couple $100,000 for the lower location and maybe $1 million to $1.5 million for the upper location. So it's a significant difference for us.
Wow.
A huge impact on the landlord, too. I think he has some affection for his building, and the idea of having it recently been completed and then to cut it all to pieces again is not something I don't think he would.
He doesn't have that much affection.
Yeah. Okay, so the issue for us is obviously that the equipment not be seen from the street. And so what plans would you have for that if you were allowed?
Well, the plan that we had was that screen wall at the back set of arches. So you still have 3 open arches at the street facade. And then the enclosed, one of the 3 arches on the back side towards the roof would be enclosed to screen the equipment.
Okay.
So that was our proposal.
Ms. Tatum?
I think what you can't see here is that each one of those archways, they're actually a double set of archways.
Yes.
There's like a walkway that
That's
has
what the
an
picture
archway
is.
on the front and then an archway in the back.
That
And
was in
that's
your-
what he's
the photos,
referring
right?
to.
And he's saying only the one in the back would be covered?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
But our position is that if it's in the back of the equipment could still be seen in that open area, because it's open in the front.
Do you agree with that, sir?
I'm not quite, what do you see?
I was just saying that if the equipment is put on in that walkway area and you screen the back wall, you could still see the equipment from the front.
The equipment's not going to be in the walkway area.
Yeah.
It's going to be on the rooftop.
On the roof
behind
part.
the screen
Yeah.
wall.
So it's going to be, and I'm only doing this for clarity, because there's 2 openings.
Yes.
In between, your
That's correct.
version says that in between the 2 openings, they're going to place the equipment, and he's saying, if I'm understanding correct,
Behind.
that it's going to be behind
On
the
the roof.
second one.
That is correct.
So the opening, the walkway would still exist as
Yeah.
it exists today.
That, and also to clarify an earlier point, that is an emergency exit. You need 2 exits from that upper roof.
But for purposes
We
of
would
this
not-
conversation,
Yeah, we
that
wouldn't-
walkway remains clear and it continues to be a walkway.
Yeah.
The
that
only
is-
difference is that the back oval is closed.
Is that
Correct.
your understanding, Ms. Tatum?
Well, now it is, right?
It is now, yes.
Okay.
Well, but that makes a difference though, right?
It makes a difference, but what we would like to see, I think it would be helpful if we could see a visual simulation
Well,
so that you
Why
could
don't we do this?
just-
Why don't we table this for now? And then you have
Yeah.
your staff go out to the building, have them show you exactly where it's going to be, take pictures, and then maybe bring it back before the planning commission.
That's agreed, that's
Is that a
acceptable.
suitable motion, Mr. City Attorney?
It sounds like the
Yeah.
proposal is to remand it back to the planning commission, and we bring back the evidence with the photos and the
All right.
design.
So that's the motion to remand it back to the planning
And I
commission.
second that.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson? Padilla?
Aye.
Morales?
Aye.
Franklin?
Aye.
Mayor Buds?
Aye. Madam Clerk, what's the next scheduled matter?
That public hearing will be continued. It's the public hearing to consider the adoption of an ordinance to amend the Inglewood Municipal Code to establish the Regent Circle Permit Parking District.
It seems that it's recommended to continue the hearing, but
It's
I got,
good.
but I got this
It's
cute little.
continued. It's being continued.
Okay, we'll continue the public hearing to January 27th, 2015 at 7 p.m. Consent calendars, items 2 through 11.
So moved.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye, and I just want to note that there are items 8, 9, 10, and 11 are residential sound insulation construction phasing, and I want to tell staff we appreciate that. 01,
Staff report recommending adoption of an ordinance number 1508, amending the Inglewood Municipal Code, Section 3-64 and 3-89 to authorize a process to establish parking structure and lot permit fees.
Motion to waive further reading.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye, move adoption.
Second.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye, A1,
No reports from the city attorney's office.
CM1, CM1.
Mayor and City Council and public, I would just like to encourage everyone to come out for our MLK celebration on Monday. We'll start at Crozier Middle School right behind City Hall at 9 o'clock, and we'll have a ceremonial march to the forum where we'll have a lot of festivities for the public to enjoy and celebrate the day.
Thank you. CC1, Madam City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like, if you can close the meeting in memory of two longtime Inglewood residents. One is Ann Mitchell, and the other one is Elton Gray. Longtime residents, they have passed away. And then, if it's okay with you, Mayor, we have a birthday girl today.
It's always good to have a birthday.
Aisha Thompson. Today is her birthday. So
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Aisha. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Hey, Aisha. Aisha.
it's okay.
CT1, oral report, City Treasurer. Okay.
And would also like to point out regarding the city investment, the current investments is that the current investment is at $43,520,188. And also, I would just like to give a special thank you to Chairman Jerome Horton, who was very helpful to me this weekend in helping the planning department get one of our parcel maps approved. So they did take it back to the assessor's office, and they met their deadline of Friday. And would also like to mention also that real estate prices are going up. There's a home just about a block from me, and I'm in the Morningside Park District, and that home is going for nearly $500,000.
Okay.
It's about a 4-bedroom home, so, and there's others in the areas, and they're going in the city of Inglewood anywhere from $350,000 to $375,000 to $400,000 currently. So just want to like to say that real estate is going up in Inglewood. That concludes my my comments. Oh yeah, I would like to also close the meeting also in memory of a very dear friend of mine who is a very friend of Inglewood, and her name is Wanda Faye, F-A-E, Oliver, who passed about 2 weeks ago. That concludes my remarks.
Councilman Padilla nominates and I appoint Celine Quiroz to the Parks and Recreation Committee.
Second.
You concur.
I concur, rather.
Madam Clerk?
Council members Dodson. Padilla.
Aye.
Morales.
Aye.
Franklin.
Aye.
Mayor Butts.
Aye. Council comment, Councilman Dodson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to see you out today. And I'd like to thank David Esposito for coming out last evening. It was a 10th and 11th Block Club with me to discuss the RSI program. It was very well received. The people are very understanding of how the program works now, much more than they were before we went there. So I want to thank him for that, taking his time at 7 o'clock at night to come out with me. That's the kind of staff we have here. Since this is the first council meeting of the year, I want to wish everybody a happy new year and a very safe and prosperous one, because it looks like the city's going to have a very safe and prosperous one. Last year was a great year for the first district. We had quite a few town hall meetings that were very informative. We've had new developments that's coming. We've got Daniel Freeman, nobody's talking about it, but it's going to be a great project. One of the better ones in the city. We'll be doing Market Street. Pretty soon we'll be getting the RFPs back. I'm thinking it'll probably be February or March. So look forward to that. And I want to thank Public Works for doing our streets. We did 7 miles of streets in the first district this year and 5,000 square feet of sidewalk. So thanks again to Public Works and this council for allowing that to happen. I'm looking forward to 2015 because I think it's going to be a banner year for this great city. And I know that you have your own opinion, but I am so grateful and blessed to be on this council with this mayor. I've seen more improvement in the last 2.5, 3 years than I've seen in 40 years. So you can say what you want about who you want, but let me tell you, this council is working. These stooges, as you want to call us, and our leader, Mr. Mayor, we're doing a job. Take this ride with us, and I think you will be very pleased. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next week.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Padilla.
Thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of quick words. I find it interesting that we have a few people that get up to the podium and want to do some trash talking, and then they leave. One in particular doesn't want to stick around to hear what we have to say or hear our comments. Yet, I have a hard time, good, he's coming back in. I have a hard time understanding when somebody says that we're not doing anything, when you have developers coming in to spend billions of dollars to move this city forward, when we have other developers that want to work on bringing Market Street to the forefront, the development in downtown Inglewood. Last year we kicked it off with the forum, and it's exceeded anybody's expectations. We knew it was going to be awesome, but it's just even better than that. And this year we're kicking off with with everything that's going on at Hollywood Park. As Councilman Dotson said, it's going to be as we used to say in the old days, a neat ticket ride. Enjoy it, get on with us, and let's move this city forward. I also find it interesting when you can have somebody come up here and chastise and talk about all the things that this council is doing, yet that person's involved with the Adobe and never talks about the good things going on at the Adobe. You never hear that person talk about, matter of fact, in December, there was a Christmas program at the Adobe, but unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it because I didn't know about it, and a lot of the people that I talked to didn't know about it. I wish that person would have came up here and talked about the programs at the Adobe so that we can all get a chance to participate and be part of those programs. You know, that's important. You know, the other thing I want to talk about is I want to thank Sabrina Barnes, Fran Tract from the library, the Friends of the Library. This past weekend, we all had an opportunity, the mayor, the council, city staff, city manager was there to go to the unveiling of the mural by Michael Massenberg. Great turnout by the community. If you get a chance, if you haven't already, come down to the library, take a look at that mural. It's just amazing the talent that we have here in the city of Inglewood. That being said, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody out there this coming Monday at the Martin Luther King event, starting off at Crozier. And then as we march, it's been a long time since this city has had a march to go over to the Forum. And there's going to be a lot of good things going on at the Forum when we conclude the march. a lot of community events, a chance for us to get together as a family, as a community, and celebrate Martin Luther King and everything that he stands for. And we have a lot of heroes in this community. We don't have to go far. We can look right amongst ours, and there's a few sitting right out here in the audience that we're very proud of. That being said, I want to wish all of you a good evening, and thank you for coming out. I really do appreciate the fact that you're taking time out of your busy schedule to come out here and hear what your city is doing, hear what we are doing to move this community forward and put us on the map for all the right reasons. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Franklin?
Well, it's kind of hard to follow these two guys here tonight. They're fired up. Let me echo those sentiments. It's sad that we would be abused by the public that comes to the podium for these last over a decade that Councilman Eloy Morales Jr. and I have been, when we have the same individuals saying that there's no progress in the city, we're not doing anything, and then lo and behold, there's chemistry. We get the right connection of the right individuals with the right vision and the right heart on the council, and guess what? Inglewood is on the rise. And my heart goes out to our mayor that has identified that he thinks outside the box. I don't know when he ever gets any sleep, these emails we get in the mornings, but the mere fact is he's a visionary. And he's a visionary, and he is a team player whereby he shares the knowledge and allows input from all of us to send this city in the right direction. So when you see us up here, despite some of the comments you hear about I when we vote, we have already done our homework. And we've already interfaced with staff, and staff has tweaked some of the reports because we've done our homework. So we're prepared to take action. And this council is a proactive, and I welcome you bringing in the new year of 2015 to join us in this rising cause. I also want to reach out to St. Margaret's Center and the Inglewood Unified School District as we work together as a partner during last month, that we used Morningside High School, where we reached out and St. Margaret's Center identified over 450 families that are less fortunate than many of us here, that they don't know whether or not they're going to still have a roof over their head, let alone to be able to have something underneath the, I want to say underneath the tree, in their unit to be able to give their children presents. And we were able to bless them. And in fact, I was handling the free meal give available for those that was there. And we made over 2,200 tacos just for that one event alone, as well as all the smiling faces and families saying they didn't have a Christmas if it wasn't for this event. I also want to reach out to the Parks and Recreation and Community Service and City Library Department on an outstanding event this past Saturday. We did not allow the rain to hold us back, nor did the artists stop from holding us back. And Michael Massingberg did his mural in the foyer as you go into the main library, and the message is Inglewood's story, and it was a special dedication we had. And then we also were blessed with Malachi Beckford, who is a poet that also not only gave us the books available, but also read poetry to us as well. So an outstanding event. The last thing I want to encourage all the residents, if you have a Christmas tree, get it to the curbside if it's a live one, so it can be picked up in this next week. Thank you, and have a blessed day.
Councilman Morales?
Thank you. I know everything's been covered, but you know, we all have the same perspective. I'll tell you, 2014 was one of the best years I've seen here in the city of Inglewood. We've been here for about a decade, a little more, with Councilman Franklin, and it really is the team that has developed here to keep this thing moving forward. Last year, we cut the deficit in more than half. Would have been more, except we settled out on the lifetime medical. Would have been way more, probably 75% of the deficit cut. We opened up the Forum, which committed to us to have 40 concerts in a year. They did 50. Almost twice as much as the second venue in LA County, which was in, I think, Anaheim did 26.
It was in Newport.
Newport did 26. Forum did 50, we expected 40. Amazing. They expect to do 80 this year. What that has brought to the city of Inglewood is amazing. Because of the attention of it, we started to see the quality developers come in and talk to us. We've gotten to the table with some of the bigger developers in the country, as you've seen on the news. our story, and it's how appropriate that this weekend we had a mural. It's called Inglewood Stories. Our story is built up of making these type of years happen. I can tell you that this year is going to be just as big or bigger in terms of developments. The fact is that last year was the first year we had $1 million per area in terms of sidewalks or streets. This year, I can tell you that District 3, I'm very proud to say, will have over $1 million in street repairs. Every District 2 as well this year. And I'll tell you, it's because we've gotten there. We've gotten there. So many years, the past 5 or 6 years, we knew we were coming. We could see the snail moving, but I'll tell you that it wasn't until last year where we started to see this is how it's going to carve out. And this year is going to be greater. We're going to start with the MLK this year. It's been a while since we had a march. I'll tell you, I was around. I was raised in Inglewood. I was around when we had our first MLK march. Cesar Chavez himself was here. He was fasting at the time, about 9th day of his fasting, and he walked. They offered him a car. He said no, he walked the parade. I'll tell you, that was huge. So this year we're going to march again. Amazing. I'm very proud to be marching side by side with not only this council, but this staff and the other elected officials. I hope all the residents come out. It's amazing. Mayor, I'd like to close this meeting for 3 of my residents who passed, 2 of which were 19 and 20 years old. Recently, drunk driver hit them head on their way back from Cal State Nobingus Hills, which they were students at. One is Joe Labori, age 19. The other, Vanessa Carrizosa, age 20. And then there was a longtime resident, Leonor Ortiz, who died of cancer over the holiday break. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. I have to confess that I came here tonight and I said to several people, I said, I wonder what the people who are kind of glass half empty people would say tonight, and they didn't disappoint. But I am blown away that someone could perceive that we haven't done anything in the city. I mean, let's just go through a few things. Let's count our blessings for the new year. The forum, as Councilman Morales said, they hoped that they would make 40. Instead of making 40, they were the #1 concert venue in the greater Los Angeles area. They had double the events of the Staples Center. They had 34% of every concert that played was played at the forum. An overwhelming success. The bids are in for the reconstruction of the gas station at La Cienega and Fairview to be turned into a community center, and that'll be a public-private partnership with a digital signage that the city will obtain revenue from, and a free community center. The Shop-Off Group is building $500,000 in up condominiums at the old Daniel Freeman site. Madam Treasurer is so right when she talks about, she gives us real-world examples of housing prices, but in checking with realtors, every year housing prices, average price of houses sold in Inglewood goes up. And I'm looking forward to getting the report for the first quarter of this year. The mural that was put up in the library is exactly right. It tells about Inglewood stories, because we have stories to tell past, and we are creating stories for the future. The Hollywood Park project has been the recipient of nationwide attention for 1 week straight. People know where Inglewood is. People respect the city like never before. And no matter how you might feel about potentially what might come, the reality is that the world is paying attention to us now. Councilman Franklin was so right when he talked about, you know, the chemistry of the council. It's just not about agreeing in lockstep. It's about knowing when you're working with people that have sense, cherishing their input, working out a vision together, developing a plan, and executing. And that's what we've done from the worst of times that we came through when we didn't know how we were going to make payroll to where we are now looking and staring at what's going to be an extremely bright future. And I remember some in the audience saying about rose-colored glasses in Pollyanna. That was never the case. It was about planning and executing. And I'm just so proud. I've never been prouder to work with such a group of people, the staff in the city, from the leadership to the people that work from first floor to ninth floor, and this council, some amazing, amazing people. I want to close the meeting in the name of Ann Mitchell, Elton Gray, Wanda Faye Oliver, Joe Labori, Vanessa Cabisosa, and Lenora Ortiz. Happy New Year. We're adjourned.
Good job, Mayor.
Yeah.
I don't know why they get